Bringing my guy Rip Hamilton to break this all down, and don't want to say break there with AD, but Rip, Frank Vogel said after this one that they have to win games until he gets back. The problem is they haven't been able to do that even with him on the court. How does this set the Lake Show back if they're looking toward the postseason?
Well, it definitely sets them back, Brandon. I mean, they've been waiting for AD to come back after he missed his 17 games earlier this season. And to have him back on the court, he's their anchor on the defensive end. And he can carry this team offensively. Before he went out, he had 17 points. It was really had a nice little rhythm out there from the offensive end. But he means so much to this team defensively. He's the guy that can help out, defenders getting beat, especially from the perimeter. He's a rim protector. He's a guy that really communicates a lot on the defensive end. This is a big loss for the Lakers, and the reason why is now it pushes LeBron James back to the 5 position. And I don't think, even though at times they look good and they end up pulling that game out in Utah, I think over the second half of the season, that's going to take a toll on LeBron James. I mean, him having to battle with guys like Rudy Gobert, and when you're trying to get LeBron plays off, you're trying to get him rest, you're trying to get him rest on the offensive end, and to have him have to do so much on both sides of the ball, if you're a Laker fan, that definitely has to worry you, because in order for them to get to the promised land, back to NBA championship, they need LeBron James to be healthy, and they need him to be energized. So with no AD, this is a huge loss for the Lakers.
AD, by the way, 23 points and 9 rebounds, averaging those numbers this season. Real quick, Rip, if he's not fully healthy, can they be in the postseason? Are they a legit, not contender, but a team that gets into the postseason here in LA?
When you got that other guy on your team, LeBron James, I have to say yes, especially when they got an opportunity to get into a play-in game. I mean, they're 4 games behind Denver for that sixth spot, but anytime LeBron James, is in a situation like this, that with a lot of people going against him, his focus is unmatched. I mean, this guy, when guys go out, he's never really focused on how long the guy's been out or what the team has lost from an offense or a defensive standpoint. He figures a way out to get this team and put this team on his back, especially in previous years, to figure out a way to get this team to the playoffs and most times over the hump.
So the Lakers, they have a LeBron James. The Knicks, they don't have a LeBron James. The Knicks just continue to be the Knicks. They blow the third 20-plus lead this month that we've seen against the Nets, a team that didn't have KD, didn't have Kyrie, and Ben Simmons was watching from the bench. What's happening here if you're looking at the Knicks? It seems like they're going backwards compared to what we saw last year.
Yes, they are, Brandon. I mean, this team is, especially in the last 16 games, losing 13 of the last 16. It just seems like, especially in the last 3 games, they're not making the proper adjustments in these games. Coach Thibodeau is getting a lot of the backlash. Just knowing that, hey, you know what? When he came to this New York Knicks organization, everybody knew how great of a defensive-minded coach he was, but everybody also knew how bad he was as an offensive coach. Losing Mike Woodson was big. Him going to Indiana, he was an offensive-minded guy that could really help him on the bench with just different schemes, late-game situations, especially fourth-quarter situations where Tibbs and the New York Knicks has been miserable, especially in late game situations. I just don't think they've been making the proper adjustments. I mean, when teams get a big lead, especially when I was in Detroit, when we got big leads, we knew how to slow the game down. We knew how to get the best shot each and every time down the floor. It just seems like the Knicks are taking bad shots in the fourth quarter. They don't know who they're going to finish games with at the point guard position. Some of their defensive players are not their best offensive players, and some of their offensive players are not their best defensive players. So this is a situation where they just got to figure this out, and right now they're not looking good at all.
Yeah, Cam Thomas leading that charge in the fourth to that win for the Nets there with 16 in that quarter. You talk about Tibbs and defense, didn't show up there down the stretch. Meanwhile, the Bulls, they got some good news. Zach Lavine cleared to return after the All-Star break. Bulls on top of the East. When you look at what Zach Lavine brings to the table, they already have some juice, but what does he bring back to this squad once he returns?
Well, they bring another prolific scorer to this team. I mean, DeMar DeRozan has been putting this team on his back. He's been one of them guys that I've been a big fan of, just the simple fact that he's still shooting a mid-range jump shot. But when you add Zach back to this roster, I mean, it brings brings them another guard that can take some pressure off DeMar, but he's a guy that's dynamic in transition. He makes easy plays for everybody. He's going to make DeMar DeRozan's job a lot easier, especially him on the floor, because now teams are not able to double team him or send help from the weak side. Zach is just going to make this team better. He's their all-star. He understands that he needs DeMar. He needs the guys on the floor to make him better. But his athletic ability of him getting to the basket just eases the pain for this whole Chicago Bulls team.
Yeah, of course, DeMar DeRozan putting up MJ numbers the past 7 games, averaging somewhere between 28, and then he had a few 40 pieces in there well and shooting over 50%. So that's something they can look forward to as that top spot in the Eastern Conference. I want to go back to the West here because it looks like we may not see Zion Williamson a little bit longer now. Report that he may have to get a second surgery on that foot. At some point, Rip, if you're New Orleans or Zion, is it time to shut it down? Because this is a young guy, a big guy at that, but we haven't seen him this season.
Yeah, I definitely think that this is a huge question mark for the New Orleans organization right now. Do we shut him down? I mean, do we still try to make a run for the playoffs, knowing that we just added CJ to the roster? But I think that Zion's health is more important than anything else. Him having to get a second surgery on his foot. I went out when I was a college kid at the University of Connecticut. I ended up breaking my foot and had the same type of injury. I got a 6-inch screw in my fifth metatarsal right now, but I didn't have issues or lingering issues after that. Could it be the situation with Zion with his weight? Could it be him being out of shape? Could it be the pounding and he's way more athletic than me from a jumping standpoint that's having a huge impact for him finishing at the rim? So I think this is a situation right now that you got to be very careful with this because he is your franchise guy. You know that, hey, in a couple years he'll be a free agent. So you want to monitor this and you don't want to have any lingering injuries, especially for next season. So this is a huge blow to the New Orleans organization.
Zion, of course, the former #1 pick, missing 58 games this season. And again, we don't know when we're going to see him. Let's spin something a little bit to something we might see in the future. Adam Silver in the NBA getting closer to a midseason tournament. Rip, you played in the game a game before, and you never had this option. But what are your thoughts on this possibly being a thing towards the association in a few years?
Don't like it. Brandon, don't like it at all. I mean, when you talk about guys already understand the NBA season, and most of the guys are very routine oriented. And to have a play-in tournament in the middle of the season when you already have an all-star game where you already gave guys an extended vacation during that time. When I played, all-star weekend was some guys end up playing on Wednesday or Thursday, and then you went to all-star weekend and you only had 2-3 days off, and then the regular season started back up. Adam Silver and the Players Association came together and said, all right, we need guys to get off their feet a little bit longer. Now teams are getting 9-10 days off for all-star break. So to have a tournament mid-season, I don't like it. I know from a fan standpoint, sometimes when you're watching games, you want the regular season to be more competitive. But I just don't think that's the way. You still got Eastern Conference Championship. You still got all that. But guys are playing the game for one thing, and that's to win the NBA championship. So I don't like it at all, and hopefully that they don't agree on having this tournament in the midseason.
You mean money won't help that? I'm just saying. You saying money won't help that, Rip?
I don't think so, especially when you're paying guys $20, $30, and some guys $50 million a year.
All right.
I don't think that's going to be a big factor for them.
I'm just saying the 15-man on the bench, he may say otherwise, but all right, we'll see what happens there.
Hey, Brandon, he only got so much say in the locker room, the 15 guy, just to let you know that.
That is true. As always, Rip Hamilton breaking it down for us. Hey, money makes sense, but maybe not for everybody when you're making millions, as Rip just said. Those notable games out there tonight, the Heat taking on the Hornets, the Wiz Kids in Brooklyn, and then the Mavs and Pellies, and then a nice little showdown between the Sixers and Bucks. That one at 8:30 Eastern in the Eastern Conference. All this day in sports history.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.